The Invisible Cage, a psychology story about fear. Daniel was not lazy. He was not stupid. And he was definitely not untalented. Yet at 30 years old, his life felt small. Every morning, Daniel woke up at 6:30 a.m., took the same route to work, sat at the same desk, and stared at the same screen. He told himself it was safe, predictable, stable. But deep inside, something felt wrong, because every night, before sleeping, a different version of Daniel appeared in his mind, a version that had taken risks, a version that had tried, a version that hadn't stayed quiet when he wanted to speak. And every night, that version disappeared. The first bar. Daniel once had a dream. Years ago, he wanted to start a business. Not something crazy, just something meaningful. He had ideas, he had skills, he even had time. But his brain had questions. What if it fails? What if people judge you? What if you lose everything? So Daniel waited. 1 year turned into 3. 3 turned into 7. The dream didn't die, it just stayed locked away. Psychologists call this anticipatory fear, when the brain reacts to imagined pain as if it already happened. Your mind doesn't wait for danger, it creates it. And Daniel's brain was very good at that. The cage you can't see. One evening, after another long day at work, Daniel sat alone in his apartment. The TV was on, but he wasn't watching. His phone buzzed, another reminder of someone else's success. He felt stuck. That night, he dreamed something strange. He was standing inside a cage. The bars were thick, dark, and cold. He grabbed them, shook them, tried to escape, but they didn't move. Then he noticed something terrifying. The door was open. Confused, Daniel stepped forward and walked out effortlessly. When he woke up, his heart was racing. The cage had never been locked. Fear's biggest trick. Fear rarely looks like fear. It looks like logic. It sounds like reason. It feels like protection. Fear says, wait until you're ready. Play it safe. Now is not the right time. But psychology tells us something uncomfortable. Fear is not designed to make you happy. It is designed to keep you alive. Your brain evolved thousands of years ago when danger was real and immediate. Predators, hunger, survival. Today, rejection feels like death. Failure feels like danger. Judgment feels like exile. But none of it is actually fatal. Yet your brain doesn't know that, so it builds invisible cages. The day everything shifted. One day, something small happened. Daniel's company announced layoffs. Suddenly, the safe job wasn't safe anymore. Fear hit harder than ever. But something else appeared too. Clarity. For the first time, Daniel realized something shocking. He'd been afraid of losing something he never truly owned. Security was an illusion. Control was an illusion. Safety was an illusion. And fear had convinced him otherwise. The day everything shifted. One day, something small happened. Daniel's company announced layoffs. Suddenly, the safe job wasn't safe anymore. Fear hit harder than ever. But something else appeared too. Clarity. For the first time, Daniel realized something shocking. He'd been afraid of losing something he never truly owned. Security was an illusion. Control was an illusion. Safety was an illusion. And fear had convinced him otherwise. The science of fear. Neuroscience shows that fear activates the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for survival responses. When fear is triggered, logical thinking shuts down, risk feels exaggerated, and inaction feels like the smartest choice. This is why fear doesn't shout. It whispers, and the more you listen, the louder it gets. The first real step. Daniel didn't quit his job overnight. He didn't suddenly become fearless. He did something smaller. He took one step. He started working on his idea for just 30 minutes a day. No pressure, no expectations, no announcements, just action. And something unexpected happened. The fear didn't disappear, but it weakened, because fear feeds on inaction. The truth about courage. Most people believe courage means not being afraid. Psychology says the opposite. Courage is acting despite fear. Fear doesn't go away when you wait. It goes away when you move. Every step Daniel took proved one thing to his brain: I survived. And slowly, the invisible bars began to dissolve. The real prison. Months later, Daniel looked back at his old life. Nothing magical had happened, but everything had changed, because he finally understood the truth. The cage was never real. The lock was imaginary, and the key had always been action. Fear didn't protect him. It delayed him. Final psychological truth. Fear is not your enemy, but it is a terrible leader. If you let fear decide your future, it will choose comfort over growth, safety over meaning, and survival over fulfillment. The invisible cage only exists as long as you believe it does. The question is not, what if I fail? The real question is, what kind of life will I live if I never try?